समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
In the Kathak Letter episode, after Satluj was pulled by Z5, I had given you the picture of how Punjab reached the stage of Khalada, reached the stage of Jaswant Singh Khalada, all the violence, radicalization, the fight that had taken place till then, the violence and the killings on all sides. I had also given you the numbers from all authentic sources available with us. Then I had said that I will soon enough tell you the story also of how the police fought back. What was the fight on the ground between the police and the insurgents, militants, terrorists, who have, however you describe them. In fact, those descriptions kept changing with times. Now, Punjab insurgency or the Punjab crisis has been unique in India's history of many insurgencies, from the Naga insurgency now to the Naxal problem, or what is called as LWE, left-wing extremism in East Central India. India has seen all kinds of insurgencies. There is also an ongoing one in Kashmir, which sort of waxes and wanes. Right now, at this point, touchwood, it's in the waning stage. Each one of these has been handled differently. Each one of these has been handled with different forces, or a combination of different forces, as in uniformed forces. On the state side, the Punjab situation is unique in the sense that this was fought almost entirely. Take out the exception of Operation Blue Star. If you take out Operation Blue Star, and with Operation Blue Star, there was an accompanying operation called Operation Woodrose. Woodrose was the name given to the operation that the army carried out alongside Blue Star. Blue Star was for the Golden Temple complex in Amritsar. Wood Star was to then clean out all the other holy places elsewhere in the state, and also villages, etc., of supporters, particularly armed supporters of Bhinra. That was called Operation Woodrose. If you take out those 5 days of Operation Blue Star, you can call it 10 days, from June 1, 1984 to 10, 1984, that is the day restrictions were lifted or had begun to be lifted in Punjab. Barring that, all of the Punjab fight was carried out on the side of the state, on the side of the government, by the police, by the state police. Why this is distinct? In Kashmir, so far the army has been in front. Even Rashtriya Rifles, which is fighting now, is part of the army. These are dedicated battalions of the army which have been trained specially and deployed to fight the insurgency and terrorism there. They are helped along by Kashmir police, which has had a heroic role, but the lead role in Kashmir Valley, in the Kashmiri insurgency, whether in Kashmir Valley or in Jammu, south of Pir Panjal, that has all been with the army. That's one. This was also true of northeastern insurgencies, the Naga insurgency, Manipuri insurgency, Mizo. These were mostly fought by the army until in Mizoram, at one point, Brigadier Randhawa was sent by Mrs. Gandhi from Delhi to organize some kind of a fight back at a time when it looked like the insurgents were getting really, really powerful, and he raised 2 battalions of Mizoram armed police. These were mainly consisting of, he mainly picked up the insurgents who had surrendered and built these battalions around them. But still, fight back from the state was almost entirely carried out by the army. So Nagaland, Mizoram, by the army. Manipur, almost entirely by the army. You can say Assam Rifles also, but Assam Rifles also operates under the operational control of the army. Then you come to Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Maharashtra, the left-wing extremism. The senior police officers of the state were involved. The state police, particularly commando battalions, were involved. But the bulk of the fighting was done by central armed police forces or central paramilitary forces. They provided the largest amount of manpower or human resources for that fight. Punjab, on the other hand, if you take out those 10 days of Operation Blue Star, Punjab was almost entirely carried out by Punjab police. That's where this is a unique situation. Punjab police got into the fight early enough because even before they realized what was happening, there were some assassinations. Lala Jagat Narayan, the founder of Punjab Kesari Hind Samachar Group, was assassinated in 1981. That's when the trouble started. But Punjab police really woke up to this situation, or maybe they were so shocked that they didn't quite wake up. They went into some kind of a freeze. Was on 25th of April 1983. 25th of April 1983. That is just about a year before Operation Blue Star. That's when Avtar Singh Atwal, in 1959 batch Punjab cadre IPS officer, a DIG then, who had just gone to pray. He was unarmed, he had gone to pray, he was coming out. At the steps of the entrance, he was shot. His body kept lying there for at least a couple of hours, if not longer, because nobody dared to go and touch it, help him, or pick up the body, while a lot of the police were there. Such was the fear in Punjab at that point of time. He was not the only IPS officer killed in this Punjab fight on behalf of the police. 6 IPS officers were killed at different points of time. I will just give you the details and I will try and put them in sequence. So number 1, Avtar Singh Atwal, 25th of April 1983, 1959 batch Punjab cadre IPS. Just for our understanding, KPS killed was 1957 batch, so quite senior. Second, and this was a tragic incident which shocked the entire country at that point. A.S. Brar, Abinder Singh Brar, 1979 batch IPS officer, SSP Patiala, and K.R. Singh, even younger than him, 1982 batch IPS officer. They had gone to jog at National Institute of Sports in Patiala. There they were assassinated, both of them. Brar was working as staff officer to Julio Ribeiro, who had recently been appointed police chief in Punjab to get the police together, to reorganize the police, to organize a fight back against militancy. These two then killed on 14th of December 1987, A.S. Brar and K.R. Singh, 1979 and 1982 batch respectively, SSP and ASP of Patiala. Then we come to Seetal Das. Now, Seetal Das and Baldev Singh. Seetal Das was IPS SSP Patiala, second SSP Patiala to be killed. Seetal Das was IPS SSP Patiala. Baldev Singh Brar was his SP, not IPS, but his SP. These two were assassinated on 17th of August 1988, and thereby lies a story. They had been killed by Dalbir Singh, who later was described as a KLF, Khalistan Liberation Front terrorist. The story, however, is very complicated. This was around time that Punjab police had started setting up what is called as Senas. So different officers will get their own insurgents who had surrendered or who had come over ground or who had been won over and said, look, I will give you a police rank, I will give you a weapon, you can go and kill terrorists on my behalf. That's how many Senas came in. You want more details of this, you can go back to the book I had mentioned to you earlier. That is Rameshnder Singh's book, Turmoil in Punjab. And you will find the subchapter on the Senas on page 375. Dalbir Singh was one of these cats. He was one of these cats in the rank of assistant sub-inspector who it was found was carrying out excesses and running his own operations, maybe extortion or maybe acting on behalf of Khalistan Liberation Front. So he had been hauled in or called in for interrogation and questioning. Before they started to question him, once they hauled him in, they asked him to hand over his service revolver or the handgun that the police had issued to him. He did no such thing. Instead of handing over his handgun, he pulled it out, shot the SSP, Seetal Das, then shot his deputy Baldev Singh Brar, and then shot himself. At least that was the story we heard. Then later it was said that maybe one of these two fought back and killed him. We don't know for sure, but generally the belief is that he killed those two and then killed himself. So that was one of the police experiments, quote unquote, gone wrong. And that led to a lot of excesses also, because these cats then turned themselves into a mercenary army or tiny mercenary armies and carried out their own quote unquote actions. In a lot of the cases, they misuse the power given to them. The starkest example of that was this Seetal Das Baldev Singh Brar killing incident. After this, some changes were carried out. And then we come to number 6. The 6th IPS officer killed was Ajit Singh. He was the DIG Border Range. He was killed on 7th of May 1991. This is when the police, helped along by the army, now some Rashtriya Rifle units had come in, they had encircled Gurbachan Singh Mano Chehal. Gurbachan Singh Mano Chehal at that point was the most significant radical terrorist leader or commander in Punjab. Many of the others had gone to Pakistan already. He was in Punjab. He escaped, and in that exchange of fire, one of the key people accompanying him, Bhutta Singh, was killed, and also some casualties took place on the police side, including Ajit Singh, IPS, the DIG. If you go to the IPS website, you may not find his reference. That's because he had served in the army. He served in the army and from there came to the police and became an IPS officer. So these are the 6 IPS officers who got killed in this process. Now, 1983 is the time when Punjab started worrying and the Union Home Ministry started worrying that this situation was beyond the capability of existing Punjab police officers. Also, they found it dangerous. Many of them were caught up in the local population. So they wanted to bring somebody from outside. It was in 1986, therefore, finally, it was in March 1986, therefore, that they brought in Julio Ribeiro. Julio Ribeiro had been the head of the police in Maharashtra, Mumbai. He was very much a Mumbaikar. At this point, he was a special secretary in the Home Ministry. So he took one rank drop from special secretary to DG Police Punjab. He also came in and made that statement that still haunts him, which is when he said, "We'll answer bullet with bullet." I think it's much after saying that he realized that the situation in Punjab was much, much worse than he had imagined. This was not like dealing with gangland violence in Mumbai. So he made brave statements. There was also an interview with me that I did for India Today magazine. You will see that on your screens. And he did say that he understood there were problems, but I don't think he was quite prepared for what lay ahead. Not long after he came in, 3rd October 1986, that's within months of his having come in, he faced his first assassination attempt. And this was a very serious assassination attempt. It's a miracle how he survived. He and his wife Melba, they were in the Punjab Armed Police headquarters, secure as secure can be at any point of time, even then in Punjab, and they were attacked in their morning walk by 5 terrorists, most of them mixed up with the policemen posted in Punjab Armed Police. They tried to kill them. They used a combination of carbines and a light machine gun. And yet, Julio Ribeiro hit the ground. His wife took some injury, but not that serious. It was a miracle. They survived. So that was the first one, but that was not the only one. In this one, 2 cops were killed. 2 cops protecting them were killed. What Government of India did, they also wanted to protect the officers in Punjab who were on hit list. So after they finished their tour of duty in Punjab, they were given what were seen as safe postings. And safe postings those days were in diplomatic missions in the Warsaw Pact, Soviet bloc, communist countries, because it was considered nearly impossible for any terrorists to reach there, because these countries were not easy with visas at all. Entry was very difficult. That's why several of these officers were sent to places like Bucharest, Budapest, Sofia in Bulgaria, places like that for their safety. However, soon after they were sent, communism unraveled, the Soviet bloc unraveled, and not only did these countries become liberal, westernized democracies. But in the interregnum between being communist dictatorships and becoming liberal, well-governed democracies, there was also a period of chaos. Julio Ribeiro, for his protection, was sent as ambassador to India's ambassador to Bucharest. In Romania, Ceausescu was in charge. There could not be a place more secure than that. So we met him in Romania when we went on a long tour through the Soviet bloc when it was unraveling in 1990. That's when we met him. In fact, I had got robbed. I lost my passport and lots of other things. He helped us get at least my passport quickly enough from the embassy. We again landed up in Romania in September 1991. Why? Because we were doing now a series of stories on how the Soviet bloc or the former Soviet bloc or Warsaw Pact bloc had transformed about a year after the unraveling of communist dictatorships. It was then that we met him in a hospital, in a super secret hospital, in a non-numbered room, secretly held there. We were taken there by people in the embassy and also by the Romanian government. He was recovering from bullet wounds. This is after the second attempt on his life on August 20 in Bucharest. Once again, when he and his wife Melba, they were shot while on their evening walk in Bucharest. Now, terrorists knew that they were used to their walks at sort of fixed hours, and that is the reason one of the first bits of advice anybody gets as part of a drill to protect themselves from terror attacks, people on the hit list, is not to follow a fixed pattern of life. But in this case, they did, and four people came in a car they had only recently bought in Romania and fired at them with Hungarian-made AK-47 rifles, which later the Romanian investigators thought these four had bought from Hungarian army soldiers because everything was in chaos. He took some bullet injuries. When we met him, he was recovering in the hospital. We'll try and find you that picture or that page from India Today's archives if we can, so you can see that that was the second attempt on him. In this case, the commandos protecting him, who were walking behind him and his wife, they were smarter. They killed one of the attackers, wounded the other and captured him, and captured the third one in good shape. The fourth one escaped, and when we met Romanian authorities, they said they were quite sure of getting the fourth one also. The names on the passports they were carrying were Rakesh Kumar, Gurmail Singh, Surjit Singh and Sandeep Singh. It turned out, no surprise, that all passports were fake. While these assassins were killed or arrested, this story continued. This story revisited us in Delhi when Liviu Radu, who was then the charge d'affaires of the Romanian embassy, acting ambassador, he was kidnapped. He was kidnapped by Sikh militants, and in exchange for him, they wanted the assassins of Mr. Ribeiro released, and also Jinda and Sukha, who were the assassins of General Vaidya, released in India. This went on for 49 days. I will not go into too much detail. Maybe I'll tell you this story at some other point of time. However, the police and the intelligence agencies discovered that the group that had kidnapped them was headed by Gurjan Singh Budhsingwala, who meanwhile had escaped to Pakistan along with two associates. One of those associates actually was a coach at Sports Authority of India. Now remember, this was about the assassination attempt on a serving ambassador, that is Julio Ribeiro, former DGP, in Bucharest, and also the kidnapping of an acting ambassador of what was now a Western country, or what was now a proper European country, in Delhi. So European powers and the Americans also got involved. So I will only briefly tell you one point. Remember, we are still in 1991. This is within months after the attempt on Julio Ribeiro and his wife. November 91, Reginald Bartholomew, who was Under Secretary of State, American Under Secretary of State for International Security Affairs, he landed in Delhi from Islamabad. Everybody knew that something was going on about Mr. Radu. On November 24, the Panthik Committee, headed by Sohan Singh faction of Panthik Committee, issued a statement from where else but from Pakistan that Radu was being released. Now, Ribeiro was not the only DGP who had seen an attempt on his life. While he was serving as DGP in Jalandhar, and later when he was ambassador in Bucharest, The other DGP who faced an attack was D.S. Mangat. D.S. Mangat was appointed in 1990 after KPS Gill was removed on the demand of the militants as a condition for starting negotiations with the Chandrasekhar government. D.S. Mangat took over. Very soon, his car was blown up. He survived. One of the officers with him, who I know well, Mr. Sethi, he lost a leg, but the message had gone to all of Punjab police that you take panga with terrorists at your own risk. How did the militants acquire such a lot of support? Punjab militancy had gone through many phases. One was the Bhindranwale phase that ended with Operation Blue Star. Then came the horrible killings of Delhi that got people very angry. After that, Rajiv Gandhi signed his peace deal with Sant Longowal. The radicals did not like it. Within months, Sant Longowal was assassinated, and then one more round of insurgency started. We've come to 1985, 1986, as we told you. Ribeiro was appointed. 1986, the first Operation Black Thunder took place. Operation Blue Star, say generally between June 1 and 10 of 1984. Two operations called Operation Black Thunder 1 and 2. Black Thunder simply because NSG was brought in there to carry out the operations. Indian Army was kept out. The creation of the NSG was a consequence of 1984 Operation Blue Star, because there the army got a bad name in the sense that army got caught up in a very partisan situation, that too operating in the holiest of the Sikh shrines, and the army did not like it. Army also saw mutinies by some Sikh units after this. Then a thought process developed that a new force should be created, paramilitary force that works under the Home Ministry, may have people drawn in from the army, but carries out anti-terrorist operations. That's how NSG was set up. In fact, Mr. Gill was a strong and a vocal critic of Operation Blue Star and the way the army handled it. He used to, in fact, say sort of philosophically that Sardar Patel was not stupid, Nehru was not stupid, that they called Hyderabad a police operation. They sent the armed forces there, but they called it a police operation because they said, we police walas, हमको तो बदनाम होना ही है. It's okay for us to get a bad name, but the army must never get a bad name. That's how NSG came into being. First time NSG was in operation on 30th April 1986. That's when about 200 militants who were inside the temple complex came out peacefully finally and surrendered. Some surrendered, some were let go. And then they once again took over the Golden Temple, and there was a second Operation Black Thunder in the May of 1988. The picture you see of mine, it is from that Black Thunder. There was a little bit of tamasha there. I had borrowed flak jackets or bulletproof vests were a very new thing in India then. Nobody knew them, so I borrowed one from one of the commandos, and also a ballistic helmet just for a picture. This was an operation carried out in which only the snipers fired for a few days. A few people were killed, and more than 200 then surrendered. In fact, when the surrender took place, Mr. Gill walked inside into the Golden Temple complex and brought many of these terrorists with him. So these two Operation Black Thunders, with each one, militancy went down a little bit, but it came right back. And when it came right back, the next round of the fight back started in 1991 when KPS Gill went back there. November 1991, KPS Gill was brought back in as DG of police. Now, how did militants continue to fight this support in spite of suffering so many reverses, in spite of losing so many lives, in spite of police forces at various points of time using the harshest methods? That's because in the Punjab countryside, among Punjabis in general, there is defiance, there is the pull of heroism, and also there were benefits. If you become a militant or a khadku as they were called, you were glorified. There was a lot of romanticism because you were seen to be fighting the police, who are always the usual suspects, the bad guys. A Wild West kind of halo grew around these militants, and that's how they became very popular. We were told stories. Gurbachan Singh Manochal disappears whenever he wishes. Actually, he did disappear once. In the process, the DIG got killed, as I told you. Paramjit Singh Panjwad, he was also one of the key militants. He can fight 1,000 policemen just by himself. They can never see him. They also were well connected in the villages. Villages really betrayed the militants as long as they thought they were dominant. They attracted school dropouts, unemployed people, and Punjab has always had a problem of declining land holdings because as families grow generation to generation, your land holdings come down, and the AK-47 then became a very good instrument to earn a new kind of living. Even if it was risky, it was also adventurous. Almost every militant at that point, they still do, the few that they are, had a nickname. And the moment one died, there were many claimants to that same nickname. So a Satnam Singh Satta or Sukhdev Singh Sukha may get killed, but the police will end up killing more and more Sattas and Sukhas after that in the coming months. That's how this phenomenon had built up. Avtar Singh Brahma, one of the key terrorist leaders, he was replaced by Avtar Singh Nikka Brahma, or the younger Brahma. And the deputy of Satnam Singh Harsha China. Harsha China is the name of the village. Satnam Singh Harsha China is Chota China. That is how this legend was built. I will in fact take you back to a story from 1993. 1993, I had gone to Punjab. Kamar Sandhu was working with me on that story. And I asked Mr. Gill if I could be given access to some of the A category terrorists who were in their custody, who had surrendered and who now they were going to rehabilitate. India does not have a witness protection program, so this was done by using secret funds, give the guy 1 crore of rupees depending on what his rank, quote unquote, the rank in militancy was A category. Many of them were lieutenant general like that, and I will take you through that story. And then they could buy 3 trucks, so Jaswant Singh could become Kulwant Singh, buy 3 trucks, start a new life in Imphal in Manipur, or Raipur in what used to be Madhya Pradesh. Then in some cases, not go that far, but start a new life in Tarai, usually with trucks or by buying a new plot of land or new patch of land for farming. Many of them were held in the Punjab Armed Police area, Punjab Armed Police campus. That's where I told you the first attempt on Julio Ribeiro and his wife Melba took place. There, I talked with many of them, and I found this very young fellow, barely 20, 21, maybe even 19. I don't know. I can't tell. He had a very sparse beard, very thin frame, very sparse beard, and he was introduced to me as an A category terrorist. So I said, Tera ki rank si? What was your rank? He said, I was Major General. I said, Major General to piche reh gaya? How come you didn't become Lieutenant General? So and so became Lieutenant General. He said, Sir, very matter of factly, Sir, मैं ना अजय सिर्फ 93 बंदे मारे सी. I had killed only 93 people. If I had killed 7 more, I would have become Lieutenant General. That was the qualification to become Lieutenant General. And I said, 7 more means any 7? He said, no, 7 Hindus, or if I killed 3 policemen, that would be okay, because 1 policeman was considered equivalent of 3 Hindus. So that is how this legend had built up. And that's how dramatically this also collapsed. The police actually started fighting back the militants once they learned their methods. Militants are enamored of white horses. Some of them started riding white horses also to show off. The policeman discovered the Maruti Gypsy. Gypsy was not a very popular car then, it had just come in, but the police took Maruti Gypsies. Now you can see sci-fi cars in Bond movies, but the Maruti Gypsies of Punjab police also became marvels of ingenuity. What did they do? They wanted to bulletproof them. Now, there was only one company in India that bulletproofed cars, that was Mahindra. So they went to Mahindra's, but Mahindra said they will happily do this, but they were full up for the next 3 years because so many politicians, so many others already had placed orders for bulletproofed cars, so they had no time. They simply did not have the ability to do this. So Punjab police started doing it in a crude way. Go to a blacksmith, they found a bunch of them in Jalandhar, just wrap a whole lot of steel around the gypsies, and later they also started welding steel sheets alongside tractors. So the tractors became kind of tanks, particularly in the countryside chases. When you were chasing terrorists in the fields, you were exposed to their fire. Even if you were in a jeep, there was nothing to stop automatic bullets. Now the police had these gypsies, armored gypsies, self-made armored gypsies, and also armored tractors, which acted as tanks, even if as slow-moving tanks. Other improvisations were carried out. For example, floors of the trucks were laden with several inches of sand to lessen the impact of mines and IEDs. In fact, in the conversation, KPS Gill said to us, you know how I thought of it? I saw a news story that some Russians had tried to smuggle out T-72 tanks in a shipment of tractors. This is when Soviet Union was falling to pieces. And he said, if main battle tanks can be smuggled as tractors, why can't I turn a tractor into a tank? In those 4 years, Punjab police lost more men than Indian Army lost in the entire IPKF operation in Sri Lanka. In 1990, 452 policemen were added already to the police's list of those killed in action. This is also when the culture of quick cremations came in, because so many were dying that the usual nicety or the legal nicety of each unnatural death being referred to a magistrate for investigation, that was given up. A person, as soon as it was declared dead, was cremated without reference to anything. Now, the police would then defend it by saying, a lot of this has now been opened up in the film Satluj. The police would then say the militants have killed judges, witnesses, public prosecutors, and policemen. They are destroying the very institution of judiciary. Now they demand a fair trial. That is not going to happen. That's when a degree of permissiveness came in, which led to a lot of killings. And in fact, it is true that in many cases, many policemen also turned corrupt, because just as the militants had illegal power, the police also had power beyond the law, because nobody was there to check them. So they also started carrying out fake encounters or extortions. In fact, it is then that my colleague then, Kanwar Sandhu, wrote a story in India Today, where I used to work then. This was in the issue of October 15, 1992. Please see it on your screens. At least we can use a screenshot. And this was headlined, Punjab Police Transgresses Limits of Law, Fighting Terrorism. I will read two paras from this. This is Kanwar Sandhu's story. It's a very factual story, very fair and very prescient. So I will tell you the first para. The first para was, there is no gainsaying the Punjab Police's recent successes, admittedly dramatic, in their life and death battle against terrorism. Many militant leaders who gave the violence a brain, direction, and tactics have been killed. That is what he said to begin with. And then he goes on to say at some point in that story, and I'm quoting from him again, but simultaneously police are frittering away their gains in a continuing onrush of official lawlessness, in the pursuit of success at any cost, and in the battle against a foe that is brutal and does not play by the rules. The police are leaving behind scars that no tactical successes will be able to heal. And then he said, police often choose to enforce the law by breaking it. See how prescient this was, because he said that police, by using these methods, are leaving behind scars that no tactical successes will be able to heal. Some of those scars have now been reopened by Satluj. In the earlier episode of Cut the Clutter, I told you about the story that the Indian Express broke on May 6 by Satinder Bains, our correspondent then in Amritsar. I had forgotten to share with you that story that I am sharing with you now, thanks to Kanwar Sandhu, who had kept a copy and who tweeted it. And the question of what was within the law and what was beyond it, that had disappeared at that point in Punjab, because militants used kidnapping as a tactic. So the police, instead of constantly chasing after who they had kidnapped or trying to catch the kidnappers, responded with counter kidnappings. Gurbachan Singh Manochehal, for example, his people kidnapped the father of one of the SSPs. Immediately, the police, you can say, kidnapped his son, and they kept him in the circuit house, showed pictures saying he's fine, he's being looked after, he's eating, and said, whenever you feel like returning our SSP's father, take your son back. So police played that game also. Also, bounties were brought in. Bounties on a terrorist's head, bounties for an action. These were also given to those who were willing to report on their own terrorist comrades. They were all given bounties and some kind of quick training in a change of identities. And that is how they spread all over the country. These included former terrorists who wanted to now lead a normal life, had given up terrorism, and had reported on their fellow terrorists. So you got rewarded with that money and a new identity. Many of these were also policemen who were on the hit list because they had carried out certain actions. They were given new names, some chopped off their beards, changed their appearance, and set up businesses in distant parts of the country. With all of this, kidnappings came to a standstill.